We're back. It's been way too long. Haven't made a video in a while, so I figured we would jump into it today and answer a lot of questions that I've been getting about training splits for gymnastics. I'm gonna try to keep this really simple. I tried recording this already and I ended up diving way too deep into the weeds, and it would have turned out to be like another 30-minute video. So my goal is to keep this under 10 minutes, and we'll see if I stick to that. Don't know if I'm gonna, but we're gonna try. So we're talking about training splits. First thing you gotta know is how frequently to train. Now, there's many options when it comes to this, but basically you wanna stick to a 3 or a 4-day training split. Training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Those would be my top 2 recommendations. Reason being, you can beat yourself up pretty good in the gym and still have enough time to recover. Once you're up at like a 5 or a 6 or a 7-day split, you have to monitor training intensity much more so that you're not getting injured. If you're gonna do a 3-day split, it's best to stick to doing full body workouts on all 3 days. The reason being is it's not frequent enough for you to split up the training into an upper body day and a lower body day, a push day, a pull day, a straight arm day, a bent arm day. You want to be doing a full body workout on all 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The 3-day split is going to be best if you're just starting out or if you don't have a whole lot of time in the gym. Beginners are going to find this a little bit easier because they don't need to specify on their training as much as an intermediate or advanced level athlete. Likewise, with someone that's a little bit crunched on time that can't get into the gym 4 days a week, do a 3-day split, you're still gonna see really good results. In my personal experience when I was weightlifting, I would do a 3-day split where I'd alternate an A workout and a B workout. My A workout would be a deadlift day with back accessory. My B workout would be front squats and bench press, and then a little bit of beach work, a little bit of bicep curls and tricep extensions. Now, I would alternate these workouts. I'd do the deadlift on Monday, then I would do the squat with the bench press on Wednesday, and then I'd deadlift again on Friday. The week after, instead of starting with the deadlift, I would start with the front squat and bench press workout, then deadlift on Wednesday. The way that the split worked was genius because you get a ton of rest on the second week when you're only hitting that one workout, that B workout or the A workout once a week, but then you'd be getting a little bit more volume on the other side with the front squats and the bench press, or you'd be getting the more volume on the deadlift with the back work. With that split, you'd be getting tons of time to really go hard with the training that you were doing, but then you would also get a lot of rest to make sure your body is recovering. Now, when we're jumping into a 4-day split, you can start to specify what you're doing on the individual days a little bit more. We're gonna start with what we would do in a weightlifting scenario. Very, very popular split would be to do upper, lower, upper, lower. Upper body Monday, lower body Tuesday. Upper body Thursday, lower body Friday. When I was weightlifting, I followed that religiously, and for the first 3 years of when I transitioned into body weight training, doing gymnastic strength training, I focused solely on a 4-day split. Now, it wasn't exactly an upper, lower. I would do heavy upper body day followed by a accessory upper body day with legs and core. And then I'd follow that again on the Thursday and the Friday. Once I started to get a little bit more advanced, I'd place my rings work later in the week when I knew I had more time to recover. Now, when we look at what we're gonna put into a certain training day, the most important thing to keep in mind is it's individualized. And even if you're thinking about making a training split for yourself, you want to design your own regimen, it's going to be very, very individualized to what you want to accomplish. So sit down, figure out what you're going to enjoy doing. Number one, it's like when people say, what's the best exercise? It's one that you're actually going to do. So figure out what you're going to enjoy training and plug it in. Do that first. You enjoy doing that thing? Make sure you put in time for it. I really enjoy doing handstands, so I start each workout with 30 minutes of handstand work. That hasn't changed. But I also know that I like training rings, and I like getting stronger on rings, and I like building up that straight arm stuff. So later down the road, I can work on iron cross or planche or Maltese, and I want to make sure those elbows are good to go for it. So I've incorporated a lot of elbow conditioning into my splits to make sure I'm ready for that work later down the road. So think about what you want to accomplish. Think about the skills that you see that you're like, that looks really cool. I want to be able to do that. Or just something that you enjoy doing. Maybe you really like doing handstands like I do. Program that in, but make sure you're balancing it out with other things that are going to help the handstand. Think of it as conditioning to help the skill that you're training. let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into each day's training. Now, we want to start every day with a good specific warm-up to what you're going to be doing in the training session. I already made a warm-up video. It's like 30 minutes long. If you got the time, grab a coffee, sit down and watch that 30-minute video. It's going to give you lots of insight towards how to prepare for gymnastics strength training. So we want to start with a good warm-up. Then if you're doing skill work, you want to put that at the start of your training when you're fresh. Skill work to me is something like a handstand, something that is technically demanding. Put that next. Then at the end, that's when we want to do our strength work and our conditioning work. If you're hitting a 3-day split, well, you got to put in all that strength work at the end. When we look at strength work, there's a couple ways we can break it down for gymnastic strength specifically. We can look at straight arm, pulling and pushing. We can look at bent arm, pulling and pushing. It starts to get complicated with gymnastics training because there's so many different ranges of motion and different variations of pushing and pulling that we can do. Now, don't worry about this unless you're at that intermediate or advanced level. Just keep it super basic and do the things that are gonna give you the biggest bang for the buck. Once you start getting further down the road, then you can start looking at all the different variations and all the different planes of pushing and pulling, but that's gonna be a little bit more considered when you're at like a 4-day training split. Keep it simple, find a good pushing exercise that's gonna give you most of what you need. I would recommend doing something like a dip, full range of motion, building up to that type of Russian dip. You guys can look at the video that I made on muscle ups, it's gonna help that. And then do an overhead pull, something like a rope climb. I did rope climbs for a very, very long time and it helped all the other pulling work that I did. So with the bent arm out of the way, we can start to look at the straight arm a little bit. Now, we talked about the handstand when the hands are overhead, but we have a lot of other variation of what we can do when we're pushing and pulling with straight arm. The first two that would come to mind and that I would recommend focusing on would be a planche and a front lever. If you can work on those two, it's gonna give you a very, very good range to play with in working on harder skills down the road. And those are very specific gymnastic type of moves. Another straight arm position that I've developed and I've really tried to spend a lot of time on is just a simple ring support with perfectly locked arms, trying to develop that elbow strength. Once the arms start going behind, we're looking at the mana position, developing extension in the shoulders and also really learning how to press the hips forwards away from the shoulders, creating strength through range of motion, getting the mobility in the shoulders to get into extension. Now, here's a quick note on creating balance in the shoulders. We want to work through the entire range of motion, all the way up to flexion and all the way back to extension. So if you're doing a handstand, really good to also have a mana or something where the arms are behind, so we're hitting both end ranges of motion in the shoulder. And then you can work on the strength positions in between. So when I developed my training split, when I looked at, I wanted to make a split for the first time and I wanted to cater it to what I wanted to do, I was hitting a 4-day training split. I'm gonna tell you guys what that is and you can go, you can use it, and I hope that you find the same results that I did. So what I was doing is I was training on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. This is the split that I followed for nearly 3 years. This is the split that took me up to getting a straddle planche, to getting a straight front lever, to being able to climb the rope with 30 plus pounds on my body, to being able to do handstand push-ups. This is how I got my first hollow back press. This was the split that I followed for a very long time that has taken me to the level I'm at now, and now it's just highly individualized. I might get a 5th day in a week because I want to work more on handstands or because I want to work a little bit more on a certain strength position. But now with the 5th day, I have to start to manage that intensity a little bit more. What I would do, always starting with the good warm up, and then I'd jump into handstand work for about 30 minutes. On Monday would be my heavy upper body day. I would start with a straight arm pull and push. That would be my planche and front lever work. Then I'd move into a bent arm pull and push. My pull for the most part was rope climbs. I did rope climbs with weight earlier in the week, and then I'd pair that with hollow back press. The reason I'd put the hollow back press in there is because it's a multi-plane pushing variation. And then I'd throw a little bit of supplementary upper back and rotator cuff work in there to make sure that the shoulders are staying stable and strong. I'd come back in on Tuesday, warm up, handstand work, and now I'd get a little bit of press to handstand work in. I would do very light handstand work on Monday, knowing that I'd have hard upper body after. And then on Tuesday, I'd spend a little bit more time honing my balance and then working on a press to handstand. With the press to handstand, I mentioned that I'd work on the hollow back press the day before. It was a multi-plane push. On Tuesday, when I come back in, I'd have a multi-plane pressing movement or pushing movement that was straight arm. So bent arm on Monday and then a little bit of straight arm on Tuesday. And that would be my press to handstand work. Now, to balance out the shoulders, I would also put my mana work in on Tuesday. So typically the Tuesday would be warm up, handstand with press to handstand, and then I'd do legs on my Tuesday workout and I'd finish with the mana to balance out those shoulders. So on the Tuesday, I really thought about having the range of motion in the shoulders kind of maximized, where I'd work on something like a Stalder press, where I'm pressing all the way up to flexion, and then the mana after, where I'm pressing back into extension, take a day off in between, go back. On the Thursday, we got another upper body day. Warm up, handstand, light handstand, work on the balance. And then I'd get into the strength work. If I was really working on the hollow back press or the straddle planche or the front lever, I'd repeat that workout again, maybe with some different variations. Maybe instead of doing static holds in a straddle planche or in the front lever, I would do something that was moving. Up on P-bars, go into a support, push back to a planche, let the leg swing through, or maybe a front lever pull. Something to switch up the variation a little bit. If I felt like I needed more strength, I would incorporate that. If I wanted to work more statics, I would stay with the statics. Didn't really matter as long as we're hitting the position frequently. Strength, after all, is a skill. Then for the bent arm work, instead of doing more maximal strength, I would do some sort of eccentric strength. So on Monday, when I was hitting the ropes with weight, I would take the weight off, I'd go fast as I could up to the top of the rope, and then I'd do 3-second negatives on the way down, working on the eccentric portion of that rope climb. That helped developing elbow strength like nothing I've ever done before. Instead of doing a chest roll up to handstand, which was for my hollow back press work, I would do some negatives. Kick up to handstand and lower down into a bent arm hold within about 10 seconds. Again, hitting the eccentric portion later in the week. This slowly started to evolve to keeping a similar Monday, but then on the Thursday, incorporating ring work, working on things like a back lever, working on more support work, or any other strength work on the rings, muscle ups, things like that. So I'd put more of the harder ring work in later in the week when I knew I had more time to recover. Friday was basically another Tuesday. Warm up, handstand, press handstand, maybe some different type of variation on the press handstand than I did on the Tuesday. And then go into a little bit of leg work. Again, could be a different variation. Maybe I worked maximal strength on Tuesday. I'm gonna work some sort of eccentric strength on Friday. And then finish up with the mana work. Hit that mana position. And again, if I didn't feel like I was strong enough to press into the position, I'd work on specifics. I'd work on a little bit of compression work, maybe a little bit more stretching in the shoulders or mobility in the shoulders. Mana wall slides just to open up that mobility a little bit more and create a little bit of strength. Now, if you guys follow that type of training split, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, where you're doing a heavy upper body day twice a week, and then a secondary upper body day with legs and core on the Tuesday and the Friday, you guys are gonna have phenomenal results. If you wanna go beyond that, then it's time to start designing your own split. And for that, I advise you to film your training sessions, write everything down, and just be present in your training, and you'll know what you need to work on. And by the point where you're an advanced athlete, you're gonna have a better insight into what the needs are for your body, what the goals are of your training, and you're gonna have a way better idea of what to put into your training than anybody else will. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't get advice from someone? Of course not. There's definitely a time and place for that, especially if you're feeling stuck and you need something different to stimulate a little bit of growth, or if you need to see something differently that you haven't seen before. But I find more often than not, if you're present in your training, if you're trying different things and always being aware of the result it's having on your performance, you guys are gonna have a really easy time. Maybe not a really easy time, but you're gonna be able to figure out how to build your own split that's gonna give you the success that you're looking for. Now, that's all I got for today. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.